Hi, I'm Terrell Turner, the host of the Business Talk Library, and today I have another special guest on. And now it's always special when I get to have guests from the home city that I am in, Charlotte, North Carolina. So today I have Dan Roselli on, and he is going to tell us all about Rev Tech. So Dan, welcome to the show.
No, Terrell, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be on.
Absolutely. Now, Dan, before we jump into Rev Tech and we talk about all the awesome things you have going on, tell us a little bit about your background before you jumped into the life of Rev Tech.
Yeah, it's funny. Anyone who will look up my LinkedIn profile, I tried to do something attention getting. So the opening line of my LinkedIn profile is I know more about tequila and M&Ms than any human being you have met before. I grew up as a marketing person, so I worked on brands like M&Ms and Sauza Tequila, and then came down to Charlotte to work for Bank of America and was their brand and advertising executive. So I ran brand strategy and marketing communications for the bank globally and was a member of the management operating committee. Then left to be an entrepreneur to stay in Charlotte and was one of the founding partners in Red Ventures, which is now a good-sized company, and put a couple other companies on the Inc. 500 list of fastest growing private companies in America. And then about 10 years ago, turned towards community building, which brings us to what we'll talk about today in Rev Tech Labs and Packard Place.
Awesome. Now, what was that journey like going from, your career in marketing, kind of sales and branding to an entrepreneur? Like, how was that shift for you?
Yeah, it's interesting. I kind of you call it three phases of my career, and I'm kind of currently in my third phase. But my goal coming out of school was always to be chief marketing officer of a Fortune 100. And I do think for the listeners, it's good to say, have a goal, go aggressively after it, and you can change and reinvent yourself. I've done it three times, but I think you got to have a path you're shooting for really aggressively. My path, the original path, was to be, chief marketing officer. And then I realized that that path was not where I wanted to go longer term, and took a risk and became an entrepreneur and realized that a lot of what I was doing, even in corporate America, was entrepreneurship, right? Being that change maker happen inside companies. And that's part of what made me successful in corporate America. But really, once I became an entrepreneur, there was no turning back. I realized that was the place for me.
Gotcha. Now, also, when I looked at your LinkedIn profile, I mean, as you mentioned about the community building there's a ton of wealth of knowledge in, there's the board positions that you have, the different, economic development organizations. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. So the journey started about 10 years ago. Sarah, who's my business partner and wife, we were talking about why Charlotte's going to be better. What's our legacy, and how do we make a difference? We had certainly worked very hard and gotten some lucky breaks, but had a lot of people help us, and we're fortunate enough to make some money doing it. And we really wanted to say, how do we make the world a better place? And Terrell, I looked at doing a whole bunch of stuff. I looked at running for office. I looked at going and running a nonprofit. And in the end, it had to be something that fit three criteria: something that I was deeply passionate about doing, something that I was a unique position to do, not everyone could do, and that added tremendous value to the community. And at the time, we thought that all the right elements existed in Charlotte for a really strong, vibrant, interconnected entrepreneurial community to be there, but it hadn't come together. And our hypothesis was if we created a physical hub for entrepreneurship, we could bring the ecosystem together. So we did a crazy thing that only entrepreneurs would do in the middle of the last Great Recession. And we bought an empty downtown office building in Charlotte with the idea of turning it into an entrepreneurship people center. And people thought we'd lost our darn minds. But that's what entrepreneurs do. We see opportunities that other people don't see, and we take risks that other people are unwilling to take. The last thing I'll say on that is it's been massively impactful for the community. We just did a community impact report. Our Packard Place and Rev Tech Labs alumni just passed $2 billion in venture capital raised, over 1,000 jobs created in Charlotte, 3,500 entrepreneurial events in the center. It has been an absolute game changer for the community, and it's just thrilling to be able to see all that happen.
Wow, that is very impressive. So now let's talk a little bit about, the full umbrella of Rev Tech. Like, what all falls under Rev Tech? Tell us a little bit about that.
Sure, Rev Tech Labs is kind of our master brand, if you want to think about it that way. We are parallel in many ways to Plug and Play and what Saeed has done in Silicon Valley, just a smaller version in the Southeast. But we started with the building, the community center, and then we started doing acceleration, and that's the Rev Tech Labs brand. So that's where people, entrepreneurs, have to apply to get in, and they go through a structured program. We started in general technology, but then we moved on to fintech that we do under the Queen City Fintech brand, also insurtech, and now health tech. So there's a Rev Tech Lab health tech brand. We do two major conferences a year in fintech generations and the largest venture event in the Carolinas every year, Venture 135, which is coming up this November. And then we also started our own venture fund, first in the fintech space. That's the CFE venture program. And then we'll be doing second funds in health tech and fintech. So we've been really busy.
Yes, you guys have been busy. So can you tell us a little bit? You mentioned, and I guess you teased us a little bit about the November event that's coming up. Tell us a little bit more about that one.
Sure. So Venture 135 is the largest venture event in the Carolinas, as I mentioned. 4 full days, all virtual. There's 3 days that are verticals on insurtech, fintech, and health tech, primarily Series A and Series B ready companies, so growth companies. But we've added 2 really interesting segments this time. One for international companies that are looking to enter the US marketplace. Those will be kind of post Series A companies, have clients, have product market fit. And then we've also added a segment we're really excited about for early stage founders in those 3 vertical segments, focused on traditionally underrepresented founders. Think female founders, founders of color. The reason we're doing that is we believe that the Series B stage, a lot of venture capitalists throw up their hands and go, well, there's no diversity, not our fault, that's just where the Series B companies are. The reason we don't have the diversity we all want to see at the Series B level, we don't have the diversity we want at the Series A level. The reason we don't have it at the Series A level is we're not supporting the founders we need to be supporting at the seed and the angel level. And we believe our thesis is that if we do a good job as a community writ large at supporting a diverse founder base at the seed and angel level, we will see that diversity at the Series A and the Series B level. So that's what we're trying to do, provide some social capital, visibility, mentorship, not actual capital.
Gotcha. Yeah, that reminds me of like, even when I just think about just business, I mean, my background is accounting and finance as a CPA, but the more I build up my own firm of learning more about sales, it's just like if you're not feeding the right things into the pipeline, you won't have the result at the end.
Entrepreneurship and building ecosystems is an exercise of farming, right? It's a long-term plan. We're big believers in Brad Feld's A Bolder Thesis. If you've never heard of it, his book on building startup communities, he just came out with a new book that's fantastic. And one of the things he talks about is building ecosystems. 1, has to be entrepreneurial led. 2, it has to have room for everyone who wants to put their shoulder to the wheel and move it forward. So it has to be inclusive. 3, it has to think long-term. You have to have a 20-year vision. And although we're 10 years into our vision, we're still thinking 20 years out from today, not 10 years out from today. And that's how you get like some of the stats I threw out at Backer Place. If I had said those stats when we started and said that's what we were trying to do, I would have been laughed out of the state. But that's how you make these things happen. Clear direction, 1 step at a time, consistent, persistent energy.
Awesome, awesome. Now, so for everyone that's listening and the people that are watching, they're excited about everything that you just said. So how do they engage with Rev Tech at the different area? Like what are ways for them to get involved and to do business with Rev Tech?
Well, that's great. Thank you for asking that question. A lot of different ways. So certainly if you're an entrepreneur in an early stage, applying to one of our accelerator programs, if you're a diverse founder applying to pitch at the venture event, if you're a growth founder applying to pitch at the venture event, if you are a mentor and maybe you're a little more seasoned, we need mentors. We have 500 plus mentors. That's part of what makes it all work. You can apply via the Rev Tech Labs site to be a mentor for all these other entrepreneurs and pay it forward that way. And if you happen to be at a big company, the idea of engaging in innovation, getting your folks involved in your big company in mentoring and or sponsoring. Almost all of our sponsor relationships have come from someone in an organization being passionate about what we're doing, getting involved, and then helping champion the cause in their company. So almost no matter where you fall in the ecosystem, there is a way to engage, and we would welcome that engagement.
Awesome. Now, where can people find you online or on social media to follow or to get in touch?
Yeah, the best thing to do is the Rev Tech Labs website. If you go to revtechlabs.co, co, not com, .co, and you look at, it'll pop up immediately a newsletter feed, so you can sign up for the newsletter. So that's the one thing I would recommend. You'll get a wealth of information on all the stuff we're doing and community events through there. So that's number 1. Number 2, in the Packard Place site, we have office hours for successful founders, and a dozen or so people there, and I'm one of those people. I do open office hours every week, 1 hour, 20-minute slots. And so for anyone who wants access to my calendar, you can get a 20-minute slot. All you got to do is go to the website and pick a time and fill it in, and or connect with me on LinkedIn. If anyone wants to find me on LinkedIn, Daniel Roselli, just go in there and say you saw the interview and we're interested in connecting. I'd be happy to accept your LinkedIn invite.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, before we wrap up, one of the questions that I like to ask every guest that comes on is, when you think about, the amazing journey of your, I guess your journey so far, I mean, going from, Michigan State to University of Minnesota, then finding yourself in the Carolinas to this ecosystem that you're developing and 10 years into your journey. And I know it may be a challenge, but what are two things that you have learned in that journey that you think other entrepreneurs should keep in mind?
Wow. I would say number one is you got to be passionate about what you're doing. I mentioned that earlier about one of the criteria sets of when we would go to do Packard Place. If you are not passionate, deeply passionate about what you're doing and believe in, you won't have the energy to drive through the brick walls that you are inevitably going to hit. And I see successful entrepreneurs do that because they're driven so much by what they believe in, they can get over the obstacle. So that's number one. So if a founder comes to me and said, hey, I'm doing this company because I want to make a lot of money, that is a danger sign. Not that we don't want to make money, but that's a real danger sign. And the second thing, listen to a lot of advice from the brightest people you know and respect. And at the end of the day, you got to make the call. I mentioned that when we did Packard Place, there was not a single advisor who looked at us and go, wow, this is a good idea.
Wow.
And yet we did it anyways. At the end of the day, you got to listen to your heart and your gut because you're the entrepreneur.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, Dan, thank you so much for, giving us a little bit of time and for coming on the show, sharing your insight. We'll definitely share this with our community and really cheer you on and keep an eye on what's going on because we really want to see you succeed.
Well, I thank you for that. Thank you for having me on. Packard Place, there's lots of events you can come to, like Pitch Breakfast and the Public House. You can find all that. I go to the Rev Tech Labs site. There's lots of ways to engage. And so that's the one thought I'd leave everyone with is get off the sidelines and engage. It's a welcoming community, and we want to see new people and new faces. So get engaged.
Thanks for tuning in to the Business Talk Library. If you like what you heard and you want to hear more, be sure to click the subscribe button and follow us on all social media platforms as the Business Talk Library.